Hello, this is going to be the first example for Learning Plan 2. The examples I have are extremely close to the case studies that you have, both the practice and the graded, just different amounts, different scenarios. So if you understand these, you will understand the practice and graded case studies. The first one we're going to do, I have an Excel spreadsheet, and this is going to be by the demo video. So it shows you each of the cases and each of the different assets that are purchased, the years, the useful life years, the amount it was purchased for, when it was purchased, and if there's any special depreciation being taken on them. So the first one we're going to look at is this case study 1. It's telling us that there was a tractor purchased. It has a 7-year useful life. It was purchased for $7,580 in June of 2016. It is supposed to be taken bonus depreciation on. There was also land that was purchased in October of 2016 for $35,000, and a shed put on that land in October of 2016 for $40,000. That has a 15-year useful life. Now, if you remember back, land does not get depreciated, so it's more or less in here for a reference, but we do not do anything as far as the Form 4562 goes for this. Another thing to note is that this case will deal with mid-quarter convention. Remember that mid-quarter convention means that more than 40% of the assets are purchased in the last 3 months of the year. So we can see that in October, much more than 40% of our assets for the whole year were purchased in those last 3 months. So we need to use the mid-quarter convention in order to calculate the depreciation for this year. So the first one we're going to do is the tractor here. So we have the tractor that was purchased for $7,580, and we're taking bonus depreciation on it. So what does that mean? That means that half of that, so 50%, it gets written off right away. So we can do our equation of taking the 7580 times the 50%, and we know that 3,790 of it is going to get written off right away. This also means that this amount gets regular depreciation on. So in order to figure that, we know that the tractor is 7 years useful life. What we're going to do is come to Blackboard. I opened up our depreciation tables, and we're going to look to see what percentage qualifies. So we're going to scroll down to see where we would find our numbers. So as you can tell, there's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of different tables. We need to make sure we're finding the right one. The majority of what you're going to be looking for is going to be up in the top part of the tables, but feel free to scroll down if you want to look through them, see how different the periods are as far as what percentages change and whatnot. But otherwise, what we are going to do is go down. Remember, we are using the 150% declining balance method. So that means that you can save this or bookmark this page 15, because this is where it starts. So if we looked up, sorry for scrolling back and forth here, the first one here says half-year convention. We don't want half-year convention because we know that this is in mid-quarter convention. So we need to scroll down to find 150 declining balance method, mid-quarter convention. You have to make sure then you look to see what quarter the asset was placed in service. So if our tractor was placed in service in June of 2016, that means it was placed into service in second quarter. So we need to go down to the next graph. So 150 declining balance method, mid-quarter convention, property placed in service in second quarter. So we look here, we're in the first year, and our recovery period is 7 years. So we can see that our depreciation percentage for this is going to be 13.39%. So if we go back here, we can take the remaining amount times 0.1339 as our percentage, and see that $507.48 is also going to be added to the depreciation. So that means that we need to figure out the total depreciation for the year. We take our 50% bonus plus the depreciation we calculated, and we get a total depreciation taken for this tractor asset of $4,297.48. So if we move on to the land, again, we know that the land is not depreciated, so we can just put a 0 in there, or you can leave it blank. It's irrelevant either way. So for the shed, we are not taking any bonus depreciation. We are not taking any Section 179. So we know that our full $40,000 is going to be subject to the depreciation percentage we find. We can go back to our tables, and we then have to move down because this is a mid-quarter asset that was placed in service in fourth quarter. So we have to go and find that table right here. So 150 declining balance method, mid-quarter convention, property placed in service in fourth quarter. We have to come down to the second table because this is our recovery period of 15 years, and we can see that our depreciation percentage is 1.25%. So we go back here, take the 40,000 times 0.0125, oops, and we get a $500 depreciation deduction for that asset. So that calculates our first case depreciation, but then we need to move those amounts to the Form 4562. So if we go to the Form 4562, we first have to enter our tractor that has the bonus depreciation on it. So we go to the Special Depreciation Allowance and Other Depreciation. This is where we enter our bonus depreciation. We have to split these apart in putting it on the form. So we take our $37.90, and that's what we put here. There's no other depreciation. If we move down to our current year additions, there's no depreciation for assets placed in service before this year, anything like that. So then we have to finish filling out the amounts for our 7-year for our tractor. So our basis for depreciation, the amount that we have left that we're calculating the normal depreciation on, is just the remainder of that $37.90. If you did not take bonus depreciation on this, it would be your whole $7,580 because that's the amount that you are taking depreciation on. We know that our recovery period is 7 years, our convention is mid-quarter, and our method is 150 DB, 150 declining balance. Then we go back to our Excel spreadsheet, and we know that the remaining deduction is $507.48. On these tax forms, you don't have to use the cents, so we just round it to 507. Then the tractor is done, and we have that accounted for. And we have to go on to the shed. So the shed is a 15-year property. The basis for depreciation is $40,000. We know that the recovery period is 15 years. The convention again is mid-quarter. The method is 150 DB, 150 declining balance. And our depreciation deduction, if we go back to our Excel spreadsheet that we calculated, is $500. So we put 500 there, and we have that total there. So then we move down to part 4, the summary part, and it says total, add the amounts from line 12 up in the first section through line 17, and then add lines 19 through 20. So if we do that, we can see that our total depreciation is going to be, if we add this amount plus that, is $47.97. So we enter that there, and our Form 4562 is completely filled out for this case. You don't have to worry about anything up here because we didn't take Section 179 at all, and we don't have to worry about anything on the second page because we didn't have any listed property, any trucks, vehicles, anything like that. So for this case study, this would be all that you fill out. And then we're going to move on to the next case study.